population. This latter group argues that Nigeria cannot continue to be excessively assertive or play the role of either a sub-regional or regional hegemony because of unfavorable domestic conditions. Their contention is that Nigeria's economy cannot withstand the strains of an extensive overseas engagement or for other reasons. It is a general concept. You all know, you are students of international relations or scholars of human relations. It's a general concept that the foreign policy of a nation is generally a fair reflection of its domestic situation. Nigeria, therefore, is not an exception. Nigerians have a proverb, and I love proverbs, which says something like this: you know, it's difficult to render the beauty, the poetry of language A absolutely in language B. And we try to transliterate in order to make things, you know, understood at times. The Nigerian proverb says that paucity of food should not be used as an excuse for not sharing. Little can still be shared unless the owner of such substance is a miser. Despite these apparently divergent positions and sometimes constraints in resources, Nigeria has played an active role in Africa and in the world, even long before the colonial era. Nigerians have been empire builders. In the northern part of Nigeria, according to Wikipedia, by the 11th century, some Hausa states, such as Kano, Jigawa, Katsina, and Gobe, had developed into walled towns, engaging in trade, servicing caravans, and the manufacture of various goods. Until the 15th century, these small states were on the periphery of the major Sudanic empires of the era. They were constantly pressured by Songhai to the west and Kanem Borno. Borno is the name of a state now in northeastern part of Nigeria, which is just a few minutes drive from Chad, the Republic of Chad, a country with which we share the Lake Chad Basin, which is drying up now. You must be aware of that. Global warming. Global warming, which I may call global warning. They had developed into walled towns, engaging in trade, servicing caravans. They were constantly pressured by these Songhai and Kanem Borno. In the south, the Oyo Empire was a West African empire. In what is today Western Nigeria. The empire established by the Yorubas from the 11th century. In the 15th century, it grew to become one of the largest West African states encountered by the colonial explorers when they came. It rose to preeminence through wealth gained from trade and its possession of a powerful cavalry. The Oyo Empire was the most politically important state in the region from the mid-17th to the late 18th century, holding sway not only over other Yoruba kingdoms in modern-day Nigeria, but as far as Republic of Benin, Togo, and in fact, to the eastern parts, shores of Ghana, present-day Ghana, where the Yoruba language was spoken. They perfected the bronze and iron smelting method, known in French as la cire perdue, the French for the lost wax method. Their artifacts are world famous today in museums. You see the bronze heads, terracotta from the north. The Oyo Kingdom had effectively a lot of influence that covered areas over a large part of West Africa, as I have said. And I quote the Wikipedia, which says that the first European travelers to reach Benin Benin was a successful kingdom to the Oyo Empire. To reach Benin in about 1485, they declared that they saw a strong mercantile relationship developing. And so this relationship developed also with the Portuguese, whereby the Portuguese traded in tropical products and increasingly in slaves for European goods and guns. In early 16th century, the Oba, when they first met, sent his prince as an ambassador to Lisbon. It was an example of classical diplomatic relations conducted practically on equal sovereignty of states between an African nation and Portugal, a world power of the 16th, 14th, 15th century. Some residents of Benin could still speak a pidgin Portuguese in the late 19th century. Today, Portuguese words still subsist in the pidgin English spoken in Nigeria, in many languages of Nigeria also, especially those in the coastal regions. For example, the word Pekin in the pidgin English of Nigeria means my son or a small boy. This is obviously from the Portuguese word pequeno. And also the word braço, which is the Portuguese word for the arm, is the Izon, which the British call Ijo words, who are in the Niger Delta, the majority. That's about the fourth largest ethnic group in Nigeria. About 10% of Nigeria are Izons, apart from the Hausa Fulanis, the Yorubas, and then you have the Igbos and the Izons. Ijo, the British call them, but the name is Izon. Of course, many names were changed because of the difficulties of the Europeans to pronounce African languages. Some of them could be quite funny, but we had to endure it. Once you suffer colonization, you might also suffer a few repercussions too. Don't worry. You remember there was an interesting joke told us by a Nigerian who went to England in the early 60s. And they said, who is a thief? He said, I'm a thief. I am a thief. Because he was thief ethnic group. So they caught him and took him to court. And they said, he pleaded guilty. He said, yes, I am. By ethnic grouping, I am a thief. Oh, they said, this is not the same thing. Because in his language, TH, doesn't exist. Just like my people will say, FIFA. So whether FIFA, the football association, or fever, it doesn't make much difference to me. Because the sound V doesn't exist in my language. Just like any European will find it difficult to pronounce GB, which is gbagbo, which means believe. We go ahead. Language is just a manifestation of the culture of the people. We have to understand ourselves. We all learn. I was telling one of our younger colleagues here that the world is made of symbiosis. You need me, I need you. The Nigerian proverb says, if you listen properly, you will hear the sounds of the footfalls of ants. And that when you listen at night, maybe in your summer times, the croaking of the toads or the frogs, you know what they're saying? Bome, bomo, bome, bo. In my language, they're saying, you give me, I give you. Whatever you sow, you reap. Life is like that. The first English expedition to Benin was in 1553, and a significant trade soon grew up between England and Benin, based on the export of ivory, palm oil, and pepper. Trade consisted of 20% ivory at the time, 30% slaves, and 50% other things. And so it grew until slave trade dominated the relationship. It was unfortunate. Visitors in the 16th and 17th century brought back to Europe tales of the great, in quote, Benin, a fabulous city of noble buildings ruled over by a powerful king. Nigerians equally